So, our report is all about the unpacking curriculum standards and competencies. In the K-12 curriculum, standards are classified as content standard and performance standard. They also include learning competencies. The Department of Education, in its Memorandum Order No. 8 Series of 2015, defined curriculum standards and competencies as: first, content standards identify and set the essential knowledge and understanding that should be learned by the students. Second, performance standards. It describes the abilities and skills that the learners are expected to demonstrate in relation to the content standard and integration of 21st century skills. And last, the learning competencies refer to the knowledge, skills, and understanding that learners need to demonstrate in every lesson or activity. So, there are steps for unpacking curriculum standards and competencies. First step, it classifies standards as knowledge, skills, and values. So, when we say knowledge, if the learning competency calls for remembering and basic comprehension of a concept or a skill. Skill, if the learning competency calls for the learner to demonstrate or apply a skill or desired behavior. The values, if the learning competency calls for valuing and appreciation. For step 2, it identifies the prerequisite knowledge, skills, and values for each learning competency. Step 3, look for the desired skills or behavior in every competency. Identify the most suitable activity for each desirable behavior. For example, create crafts that can be locally assembled with local materials, guided by local traditional techniques. The desired behavior or skill in this learning competency is for students to create crafts assembled with local materials, guided by local traditional techniques. This could be done through the following activity: the lecture, workshop, and project-based approach. For the step 4, classify learning competencies to determine appropriate assessment tools. This process is based on the works of Glatt-Thorne, 1998. Standard with conventional testing or SCT, these are learning competencies that required traditional assessment tools like quizzes and exams. For example, describe the characteristics of sound, identify the primary colors, discuss the judicial system in the Philippines, and explain different communication models. Standards with performance task or SPT, these are learning competencies that require performance tasks for assessment or authentic assessment. The example for this are: perform examples of Philippine folk dance, write an essay about a selected topic, demonstrate how to dissect an insect, paint using natural and indigenous materials. Standards for continuing development or SCD. These are competencies that focus on values and attitudes that cannot be assessed. For example, recognize basic human rights of a person, appreciate the role of mathematics in everyday life, develop healthy eating habits, and respect different cultural practices. Other techniques for unpacking curriculum standards and competencies. Some teachers also use the taxonomy of educational objectives for unpacking curriculum standards and competencies. The taxonomy for educational objectives were developed and published by Bloom and Krathwohl, 1956. The Bloom's taxonomy has become popular for teachers, especially in developing instructional objectives. Bloom's uses a multi-tiered scale to express the level of expertise required to achieve a measurable student outcome. Fink 2003 also presented an alternative taxonomy for categorizing different types of learning outcomes. It is known as Fink's taxonomy of significant learning. Fink presented his taxonomy for a systematic approach to course design that went beyond the usual focus on content. This taxonomy provided a model for course design that helps teachers to align learning goals with the method for assessing student learning. Fink's taxonomy encourages teachers to put more emphasis on active learning and relating course content with real-life problems. And that's all. Thank you.